Imagine buying 2 pizzas. Not with cash. Not with a credit card. But with Bitcoin. Now imagine that the Bitcoin you spent would later be worth over $600 million. That's exactly what happened to a programmer named Laszlo Hanyecz. In 2010, he made a simple online post offering 10,000 Bitcoin to anyone who would deliver him 2 pizzas. At the time, it sounded like a fun experiment. Today, it's remembered as one of the most expensive meals in history. And every year, the crypto world celebrates it as Bitcoin Pizza Day. But what makes this story truly fascinating isn't just the money. It's how something that looked completely worthless became one of the most valuable assets on the planet. To understand how 2 pizzas became worth hundreds of millions of dollars, we need to go back to the early days of Bitcoin. Back in 2009, Bitcoin was almost completely unknown. There were no crypto influencers, no billion-dollar exchanges, no celebrities promoting digital currencies. Bitcoin was just a small experimental project created by a mysterious person known as Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knew who Satoshi really was. Some believed he was a genius programmer. Others thought it might be a group of developers working together. This day, the true identity behind the name remains one of the biggest mysteries in technology history. But what Satoshi created was revolutionary. Bitcoin was designed to be a decentralized digital currency. That means no banks, no governments controlling it, no central authority. Instead, Bitcoin transactions were verified by a global network of computers using something called the blockchain. Today, blockchain technology powers entire industries. But in 2010, almost nobody cared about it. Most people thought Bitcoin was just a strange internet experiment that would disappear within a few years. And the few people who did use it were mostly programmers and tech enthusiasts. One of those people was Laszlo Hanyecz. Laszlo was a programmer living in Florida. He became one of the early contributors to the Bitcoin project and helped improve the software. He was also one of the first people to experiment with GPU mining. This was a major breakthrough. Originally, people mined Bitcoin using normal computer processors. But Laszlo realized that graphics cards could mine Bitcoin much faster. This discovery allowed people to mine thousands of Bitcoins much more easily. And that's exactly what Laszlo did. He mined huge amounts of Bitcoin. Back then, it wasn't difficult at all. In fact, many early users accumulated tens of thousands of coins. But there was one problem. Bitcoin didn't have real value yet. You couldn't go to a store and buy anything with it. You couldn't use it to order food. You couldn't exchange it easily for dollars. It was basically digital money that nobody accepted. So Laszlo had an idea. He wanted to prove that Bitcoin could actually be used in the real world. On May 18, 2010, Laszlo made a post on a Bitcoin forum called Bitcoin Talk. His message was simple. He said he would pay 10,000 Bitcoin to anyone who would order him 2 pizzas and have them delivered to his house. He didn't care what kind of pizza it was. He just wanted something to eat. At the time, 10,000 Bitcoin were worth about $40. So the deal wasn't anything crazy. Eventually, another user from the forum agreed. That user arranged for 2 pizzas from Papa John's to be delivered to Laszlo's house. In exchange, Laszlo sent him 10,000 Bitcoin. Just like that, the first real-world Bitcoin purchase in history was completed. 2 pizzas. 10,000 Bitcoin. A transaction that would later become legendary. At the time, nobody thought it was a big deal. Laszlo even posted photos of the pizzas online to show the community that the trade really happened. It was simply a fun moment in a small online community. But what happened next would change everything. Over the following years, Bitcoin slowly started gaining attention. Developers improved the technology. New users joined the network. And slowly, the price began rising. In 2011, Bitcoin reached $1 for the first time. Suddenly, those 10,000 Bitcoins were worth $10,000. That was already a lot for 2 pizzas. But things were just getting started. In 2013, Bitcoin experienced its first massive boom. The price climbed all the way to $1,000 per coin. Now those pizzas were worth $10 million. $10 million for dinner. At that point, the internet started noticing the story. Articles began appearing about the most expensive pizzas in history. Laszlo's simple forum post became a legendary moment in crypto culture. But Bitcoin's rise didn't stop there. In 2017, Bitcoin exploded into the mainstream. The price surged to nearly $20,000 per coin. Now those 10,000 Bitcoins were worth around $200 million. $200 million. For two pizzas. The story spread across news outlets, documentaries, and YouTube videos. People couldn't believe how expensive that meal had become. But the craziest part was still coming. In 2021, Bitcoin reached nearly $60,000 per coin. At that price, those same 10,000 Bitcoins would be worth around $600 million. $600 million. For two pizzas that probably cost around $20. It sounds unbelievable. But it's completely real. Today, the event is remembered around the world as Bitcoin Pizza Day. Every year on May 22nd, people in the crypto community celebrate by buying pizza with Bitcoin. Not because it's practical, but because it represents the moment Bitcoin became real money. Without that first transaction, Bitcoin might have remained just a theoretical project. Someone had to be the first person to actually spend it. And that person was Laszlo. But here's the question everyone asks. Does Laszlo regret it? Wouldn't you regret spending something that later became worth hundreds of millions of dollars? Surprisingly, Laszlo has said many times that he doesn't regret it at all. In interviews, he explained that Bitcoin needed real-world transactions to grow. If nobody ever spent Bitcoin, it would never have become useful. So in a way, Laszlo helped prove that the system worked. He turned a digital experiment into a real economic transaction. And without moments like that, the entire cryptocurrency industry might look very different today. Interestingly, Laszlo continued experimenting with Bitcoin after the famous pizza purchase. He even made other purchases using cryptocurrency. For him, Bitcoin was never about getting rich. It was about being part of a new technological revolution. And today, that revolution has grown into a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Bitcoin is now owned by millions of people around the world. Major companies hold it as an investment. Institutional investors trade billions of dollars worth of it. Some governments are even exploring ways to integrate cryptocurrency into their financial systems. What started as an obscure internet experiment has become one of the most influential financial technologies ever created. And somewhere in that story is a simple moment. A programmer sitting at home, feeling hungry, posting on a forum, and asking if someone could send him pizza in exchange for Bitcoin. A small decision that turned into one of the most famous stories in internet history. Two pizzas, 10,000 Bitcoin, and the most expensive meal the world has ever seen.